leagues not following after Caitlin Clark's been eliminated, and they're not into the league because they're conditioned by the league.
That question, how are you staying? It's the engine behind a narrative that has completely taken over the discourse around the WNBA. The story is simple, it's dramatic, and you see it everywhere. Caitlin Clark, the most famous rookie in sports history, is playing for a salary of just over $76,000, while European leagues are supposedly ready to offer her millions. The conclusion seems obvious. She's a flight risk. The media presents it as a ticking clock, a matter of when, not if, she leaves the league that desperately needs her. But what if that entire story, the one being sold to you on every sports show and in every comment section, is a complete smokescreen? What if the European threat is a ghost story, a distraction from a much bigger, much more important financial revolution happening right now? We are here to connect the dots and filter out the noise. And today, we're going to dismantle that myth piece by piece and show you the real story. This isn't about Caitlin Clark leaving the WNBA. This is about how her arrival triggered a financial chain reaction that has not only made the European threat obsolete, but has changed the power structure of women's basketball forever. So if you're ready for the story behind the headlines, do me a solid and hit that like button. It tells us you want the real analysis, not just the clickbait. Okay, so for us to properly deconstruct this myth, we first have to give it its due. We have to acknowledge the historical truth it's built on. For the better part of 2 decades, the lure of Europe wasn't just a threat. It was a fundamental part of a WNBA player's career. It was a financial necessity. You have to understand, the league's most decorated legends, the players who built the WNBA into what it is today, spent a significant portion of their careers splitting time between 2 continents. Think about a living legend like Diana Taurasi. She famously accepted a buyout from her Russian team just to sit out the 2015 WNBA season to rest, a move that perfectly highlighted the extreme financial disparity. Or look at Breanna Stewart, one of the most dominant players in the game today. She, along with countless others, has spoken openly about how playing overseas was essential for financial stability. This wasn't about players being greedy, it was simple math. Under the current collective bargaining agreement, or CBA, the absolute highest supermax salary a veteran can earn in 2025 is just under $250,000. Meanwhile, top-tier European and Asian leagues have been known to offer contracts ranging from $500,000 to well over $1 million per season. When you're looking at a gap that massive, of course the threat of players leaving has always been credible. It was the established reality of the league's economic structure, and it's this foundation of historical truth that made the narrative so easy to weaponize the second Caitlin Clark stepped onto the professional stage. So you have this foundation of historical truth, a league where top talent has always had to look overseas to maximize their earnings. Now, into that environment, you drop a cultural phenomenon like Caitlin Clark, and you have the perfect fuel for a media firestorm. The Caitlin Clark effect didn't just boost ratings, it weaponized that old European narrative and made it more powerful than ever before. Let's break down the mechanics of this because it's a masterclass in how modern media creates engagement. First, you have Clark's rock-bottom rookie salary. Thanks to the WNBA's slotted rookie scale, her 2024 salary was just $76,535. Now, you place that number next to her undeniable billion-dollar brand value, and it creates instant shock value. It's an injustice that's easy for anyone to understand, even if they know nothing about collective bargaining agreements. Second, you have the simple, high-conflict storyline. Will she stay or will she go? It's a compelling drama that requires zero nuance. It positions Clark as the hero, the foreign leagues as the tempting villain, and the WNBA as the damsel in distress. This is the kind of narrative that thrives on clicks and comments. The video that prompted this very analysis is a perfect artifact of this ecosystem. It takes that simple, dramatic premise and runs with it because conflict drives views. It all feeds into this one central idea that has been hammered into the public consciousness from day one.
Caitlin Clark is clearly a catalyst for a business that was, and let's be honest, Caitlin to some degree financially saved the WNBA. It was hemorrhaging money for years.
When you frame her as the league's financial savior, the stakes of her potentially leaving become astronomical. It creates a constant sense of jeopardy, but it's a manufactured jeopardy. It's a narrative built for consumption, not for accuracy, and it distracts from what's actually happening behind the curtain. Let me know in the comments, have you seen this narrative everywhere? It's hard to miss, but it's amazing how effective it's been at hiding the real story. Because while the media was busy selling you a story about a potential escape to Europe, they missed the real headline. They missed the game-changing event that was happening right under their noses, the one that makes the entire flight risk conversation irrelevant. So what is the real story? What is the monumental event that the European threat narrative has so effectively managed to overshadow? It's not about an individual player's contract. It's about the league's collective wealth. It's about the single most important financial development in the history of the NBA, the new media rights deal. This is the number that changes everything. The detail the clickbait channels conveniently ignore. For years, the WNBA has been operating on a media deal worth approximately $60 million annually. But starting with the 2026 season, the league will begin a new landmark long-term agreement with a powerhouse trio of media giants: the Walt Disney Company for its ABC and ESPN platforms, NBC Universal, and Amazon Prime Video. And the value of that new deal? It's reported to be worth an average of more than $200 million per year. Let's be perfectly clear about what this means. This isn't just a raise. This is a complete paradigm shift. The league's media revenue is more than tripling overnight. This one deal injects hundreds of millions of new dollars into the league's ecosystem annually. It is a financial bazooka that fundamentally rewrites the economic realities of the WNBA. The kind of money that has historically drawn players to Russia or China will now be flowing directly into the league's coffers. This is the game changer. It provides the capital to solve almost every major issue players have been fighting for: higher salaries, improved travel like charter flights, and better benefits. It single-handedly alters the financial power of the league to retain and, for the first time, properly compensate its talent. So the obvious question is, how does a league go from a $60 million deal to a $200 million deal? What happened to give the WNBA that kind of leverage at the negotiating table? Well, the answer is precisely what the other narrative wants you to be scared of losing. The answer is Caitlin Clark. It's that simple. The Clark effect isn't just a catchy marketing term, it's a measurable, seismic event that gave the WNBA unprecedented leverage. You don't have to be a sports business analyst to connect these dots. The numbers speak for themselves, and they are staggering. Let's start with viewership. In Clark's first season, average viewership on ESPN platforms skyrocketed by 170%. Her opening game was the most watched WNBA game ever on ESPN2, and her matchups delivered record-breaking numbers for other networks like CBS and ABC. The league wasn't just getting a bump, it was reaching an entirely new stratosphere of audience. Then there's the in-person impact: attendance. Look at the Indiana Fever. The season before Clark arrived, their average home attendance was about 4,000 people per game. In her rookie season, that number exploded to over 17,000 fans per game, a more than 300% increase. Think about this, the Fever surpassed their entire 2023 home attendance in just the first 5 games of the 2024 season. It's not just one team. The league as a whole saw a 48% jump in total attendance, reaching its highest level in over a decade.
The records keep coming!
This phenomenon, which one commentator cleverly dubbed Clarkonomics, extends to every single business metric. Her number 22 Indiana Fever jersey became the fastest-selling draft pick jersey in the history of any sport, selling out within an hour. NBA League Pass subscriptions jumped by over 360%. Social media video views crossed into the billions, a more than 400% increase from the previous year.
Try and stay ahead of that, try and tamp it down or act as a league when 2 of your most visible players are involved, not personally, it would seem, but their fan bases are involved.
Which of those stats is the most mind-blowing to you? The TV ratings, the ticket sales, or the merch? Drop your pick in the comments. This is the evidence. This is what Commissioner Kathy Engelbert took to the negotiating table with Disney, Amazon, and NBC. It wasn't a projection or a hope, it was a portfolio of explosive, record-shattering growth, all driven by one player. She didn't have to sell the league's potential, she just had to show them the data. The Clark effect is the direct cause of that new $200 million media deal. The growth wasn't just steady, it was exponential.
Not just one person, that's jealousy.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
So stop it with all the, nobody's jealous of Caitlin Clark. Angel Reese just showed you on.
So the great irony is that the very player the media paints as a flight risk is the one who single-handedly secured the financial future of the league, making it a destination no superstar would ever need to flee from again. So this brings us to the logical conclusion. The European threat is dead. The financial gravity of the WNBA has fundamentally shifted. But this is where the story gets even more interesting, because it pivots from a simple conversation about one player's salary to a high-stakes battle over the entire league's financial future. This is where the real chess match is being played. Forget the narrative about a bidding war with a team in Turkey. The real war is happening right here at home. The WNBA Players Association, the union representing every player, officially announced its decision to opt out of the current collective bargaining agreement. That CBA was set to run through 2027, but the players have triggered the opt-out, creating a window to negotiate a brand new deal before that $200 million per year in media money starts flowing in. And what are they fighting for? This is the core of the entire issue. Under the current CBA, player salaries account for less than 10% of the league's total revenue. Let me repeat that. The players, the very product on the court, see less than 10 cents of every dollar the league brings in. Now compare that to the NBA, where the players' union has successfully negotiated a deal that entitles them to approximately 50% of all basketball-related income. That gap between less than 10% and a 50-50 split is the entire battlefield. This is what the players are fighting for. They aren't just asking for a raise, they are demanding a complete overhaul of the economic system. WNBPA Vice President Kelsey Plum put it perfectly, stating their goal is to break free from a system that has historically undervalued them and demand an equitable stake in the business they helped build. What do you think is a fair split for the players? Let us know in the poll. This CBA negotiation is the true financial showdown. The leverage isn't one player threatening to go to Europe anymore. The leverage is the collective power of 144 players, armed with the undeniable proof of value that Caitlin Clark provided, demanding their fair share of the pie that is suddenly 3 times bigger than it was before. And this brings us back to the other narrative that has dominated the headlines, the idea of veteran jealousy. The story that players like Asia Wilson or Diana Taurasi are resentful of Clark's spotlight and are taking it out on her on the court. But when you understand the reality of the CBA negotiation, that entire narrative collapses under the weight of logic. Because a rising tide lifts all boats. The new money that Caitlin Clark's fame generated isn't just for her, it's for everyone. A new, more equitable CBA, funded by that $200 million media deal, means a fundamental improvement in the quality of life and earning potential for every single player in the league. We're talking about substantially higher base salaries and max contracts for veterans. We are talking about finally securing universal charter flights, a major point of contention and a symbol of respect that players have been demanding for years. We're talking about better retirement plans, enhanced family planning support, and greater investment in league-wide marketing. These are the very things that the league's established stars have been fighting for throughout their entire careers. Now, the financial firepower to win that fight has been delivered to their union courtesy of the Clark effect. It reframes the entire dynamic. The media wants to sell you a story about personal resentment, but the reality is one of collective empowerment. It's hard to be genuinely resentful of the person who just handed your union the leverage to achieve goals you've been fighting for a decade. This sentiment was captured perfectly by the legendary Candace Parker when she talked about her role in growing the game for the next generation.
Caitlin Clark is clearly a catalyst for a business that was, and let's be honest, Caitlin to some degree financially saved the WNBA. It was hemorrhaging.
That is the true veteran mindset. Do you think this new financial reality will finally put the jealousy talk to rest for good? Let me know your take in the comments. So not only does the new media deal kill the European threat, but it also provides the cure for the internal division that the media loves to promote. And as if that weren't enough, there's one more factor that's making the European option less and less attractive. That final factor is the emergence of a powerful new domestic alternative. For decades, the choice for players in the offseason was binary: go overseas for a big paycheck or rest. Now that's changing, thanks to the players themselves. Enter the Unrivaled League. This is a new 3x3 basketball league, co-founded by WNBA superstars Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, and it is designed specifically to compete with the overseas model. It offers players an average salary of around $220,000, a figure that is competitive with many European offers, for just 9 weeks of work with minimal travel, all right here in the United States. This is a brilliant strategic move by the players for the players. It addresses the two biggest downsides of playing overseas: the grueling year-round physical toll and the long months spent away from home. It presents a high-paying, low-commitment domestic option that simply did not exist before. Would you tune in to watch the Unrivaled League? So when you factor this in, the case for a superstar like Clark or any top player leaving for Europe becomes even weaker. The WNBA's own financial gravity is about to increase exponentially thanks to the new media deal. And now, a legitimate player-owned domestic competitor is emerging to fill the off-season void. The old world, where Europe was the only path to maximizing your earnings, is crumbling from all sides. The entire ecosystem is evolving, and the European threat is being left behind as a relic of a past era. Part 8. So let's bring it all together. The narrative of Caitlin Clark as a flight risk to Europe was always a compelling story, but it was a story built for a world that no longer exists. It was a ghost story based on a historical truth that has been rendered obsolete. The great irony is that Caitlin Clark's arrival didn't open an escape hatch for superstars to flee the WNBA, it triggered a financial revolution that has locked the door shut. The new $200 million media deal she directly influenced, the upcoming CBA battle for an equitable share of that money, and the rise of powerful domestic alternatives like Unrivaled have completely rewritten the rules. The game hasn't just changed, the entire board has been flipped, and the WNBA is on its way to becoming the undisputed global destination for women's basketball talent with the financial power to prove it. So, what's your take on all this? We want to hear your opinion in the comments. What do you think is the single biggest factor that kills the European threat? Is it the raw power of the new media money, the collective bargaining of the Players Association, or the rise of domestic alternatives? Let us know. The fight for the WNBA's future is far from over, and the CBA negotiation is the next major battleground. If you want to keep getting the real story behind the headlines, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. And finally, if this analysis helped you see the bigger picture, share this video with another fan. The more people who understand the real forces shaping the league, the faster we can move past the manufactured drama and focus on the real revolution happening in women's sports.